Hi guys, I thought today I would do a shack tour and just show you my play areas. I figured I'd start out on the extras wall because it is, to me, I think, very pretty. I enjoy sometimes just turning and looking at that wall. Up on the top, we'll start at the top and work our way down. I have the box for the President George that I have installed in my car. On the other side, I have the box for the President Adams that I have hooked up out in my garage. In the middle, I have the orange walkie-talkies that I just recently did a video of. And they're sitting on top of a Scout tube amplifier, 4 driving 4. That one, a buddy of mine, 262, Justin, he gave me that amp. He sent it my way. It needs some work. It keeps popping the fuse. So eventually I'll work on that and get that thing up and running and play with that once in a while. To the left of that, I have a realistic TRC 490 that is a working radio. The meter is just really stingy on that one. A 9 dB signal on that meter will show about 3. Other than that, it seems to work pretty well. Above that, I have a unit in Washington. The Washingtons, if you're familiar with me, you know those are my favorite radio. I have 3 of those. I'll get to the other 2 in a few minutes. Above that is a Cobra 148. But if you notice, most of the writing is gone. I think the face of that one has been washed one too many times. Over here we have a Cobra 2000 speaker. And another one on that end. Unfortunately, I don't have the radio that goes with them. I have a Pride 100, just a little amplifier sitting there, and a Turner Plus 2 on top of it that had a sticker on it at one time, and it looks like it's got some dirty hand damage and possibly sun fading. A couple of little Cobra walkie-talkies. Below all of that, actually, we didn't finish yet. Sorry about that. I forgot there's still more stuff up there. I have an old 40-channel Royce and a 23-channel Midland, and above that is a slant-faced Sears sideband base station radio. No realistic SWR meter up there. A little amplifier. It's called a 75, but every radio I've had it connected to, it always ends up doing between 100 and 120 watts. And I have a computer power supply for that one. That amp probably needs about 10 amps of power. That power supply supplies 18 amps. It matches up well with that little amplifier. Alright, now we can drop down a little bit. On the shelf, I have a lot of microphones. They're on both sides. If we go over, they keep on going. I have quite a variety of those. On the shelf, there's a couple of Cobra 18s. In my honest opinion, those are the worst radios Cobra ever made. Both of those have problems with them. They both have cold solder joint issues. The weather channel part of it works fantastic on both of them. But for CB use, you have to have the cover off and push on the main board to make the connection at wherever the bad solder joint is. That's the only way the CB part will actually work on those. I haven't found them to be worth my time yet, so I haven't even tried to find where the bad joints are. Next to those, we have an old Pierce Simpson. What is it? It's a Bengal. That one transmits beautiful. Receive needs work, though. I think that needs a set of capacitors in that radio. And it would probably bring the receive right back up. Next to that, I have a Striker SR94. SR94, what is that, HPC? It's a nice little radio, but it's only AM FM. There's no sideband on it. It has a really cool display when it's on, though. Below that is a JCPenney 23-channel Pinto. Below that is a 40-channel Jana, which that one, it receives, but I don't have a microphone that's wired for it yet. So I don't even know if it transmits yet. I haven't tried it. Next to that, we have an old Fanon and a Cobra 25. The really cool Chris XL50. That's just a super cool radio. Below that, a Sears Road Talker 40, 40 channel sideband radio. Oh, pardon me. 40 channel sideband radio. Let me try that without the whatever my throat just did. Over here we have a realistic TRC 474. As far as AM radios go, that is one of my favorites. They sound great on the air, really good receive, and some nice features built in. It has the antenna warning light, a modulation light. Good for mobile use too, with having the LEDs as the meter. It's a lot easier to see while driving than it is a meter like what's in that 29. Speaking of the 29, that's my Cobra 29 that has the Turbo Echo and the RFX 75 kit. So that radio does, when I put it on the meter, it was doing about 60 watts. But for a Cobra 29 to do 60 watts, I think is pretty damn well. Below that is my Super Scope radio. Takes a good 3 days to warm up. You gotta plug it in and turn it on and let it sit for 3 days before that radio will actually work. After the 3 days, it will work perfectly and it will continue to work. It's another one. I think it needs some new capacitors in it. On this side, we have a crazy cheapy one, a Maxon. It doesn't even have a meter on it. Then a Uniden PC66, a President Honest Abe. We'll get to it, but there's another Honest Abe over there. We have a Realistic Mini 23, that's the basic radio. 23 channel with the analog dial, volume, and squelch. That's it. We have a receiver here that's channels A through F. I've never even powered that one up, so I don't know what channels it receives, and I don't even know if it works actually. Someday I might power it up. And a automatic antenna tuner below that. Another great little realistic radio, the 435. If you're looking for just a basic AM radio for your car, these are inexpensive and they're really good radios. I've had a lot of these and the 474s over the years, and every one that I've ever had worked flawlessly, and they sound great on the air and good receive too. Cool features on them too, with the SWR warning light and the modulation. It's the exact same radio as that 474. The 474 is prettier, but the 435 is cheaper. And another old 23 channel radio there, Realistic TRC 24C. My other Honest Abe. Both the Honest Abes I have are in really good shape. Look at those pretty radios. And last on this shelf is a really badly sun-damaged 25 LTD Classic. And an old-timer Royce, which I don't even remember if that's a 40 channel or a 23. It's been so long since I powered that one up. All right, hanging on the bottom of that shelf, we'll start over here. A Realistic TRC 453. I don't know what it is about that radio. I just love the look of that one. I think they're a fantastic radio. I have my Yaesu mic that I rewired to work with the Realistic connected to it. The two of those match up really well. That thing sounds great on the air. It's loud too on the air. And I have my Realistic 448, which has a great receiver in it, but transmit, it's just okay. It transmits nice and clear. It's just not a screamer. It's just, well, it's a little quieter than those little Realistics. It is a good radio, though. It receives fantastic. Next to that, I have my Uniden Grant, which is another one of my all-time favorite radios. Which that radio works very well, too. I currently have the original style Uniden mic with it. moving over. We'll show them both at the same time because they're the same radio. TRC 451s. And both of these work perfectly. That radio there, if you've watched any of my skip videos, you've probably seen that radio. It is one that I like to put in line quite often. I use that one quite frequently. It's just they're both in such good shape. I bring them down to my garage now and then to use them down there. And then I just start feeling guilty because they're in such good shape. They shouldn't be in such a harsh environment. So I always end up taking them back out of my garage and putting them back in here where they're safe. Below all those radios, I have my Yaesu FT101B. I haven't actually used this radio much. I've messed with it a few times. I just don't find it to be a fun radio to use. Actually, let's turn that on so that we can see it lit up. And for some reason, it's at 270000. It is all set up. I have it connected to a dipole antenna up in my attic, which you can see that coax running up and poking its way through the ceiling there. I will be doing a video on this radio coming up. I'm going to mess with it some more. Like I said, I've used it a few times, but just not all that often. It's not really my thing. I'm more into these kind of radios. All right, let's move around the room now. We're going to go over to that side, to where my desk is. And if we see, when we're sitting here, when I'm sitting here using the computer and the radios, if I turn, the wall of extras is right there in my line of sight. On the desk, I have, let's start again at the top and work our way down. I have the original microphone, the tallest one there, the one in the middle on the left, is the original mic to the President George that's in my car. The next one is the microphone that goes with the President Adams that I have out in my garage. I have a realistic power mic there too, noise canceling power mic. I like those microphones. On this side I have a Chrome D104. Another President microphone that has the channel buttons on the top. That one goes with an HR2510, but I don't have one of those radios. So I'm just going to hang on to that mic until I get one. And I have another President microphone, just as an extra. In the middle, I have my on-air light, which I can't plug it in right now because it shows up way too bright on the camera, but it lights up in red. Below that is my Moa Junkie plaque, and a couple of my little car collection there. Two little blue Mavericks, a red Maverick, and a blue Corvette. Next to the cars, I have realistic three-way meters, a matched pair of them. Jerry Miller from CB Radio Show and Tell did a custom paint job on that one and sent it my way. He knew I had one already, and I guess he just thought I could keep at least one running by having the two of them. Fortunately, I got them both to work fine. We got a little bit of skip coming in. All right, on that Washington, that is my main radio. I have that connected to a 18-foot tram half-wave vertical base station antenna. The base of that antenna is about 30 feet in the air. On that radio, I have the frequency counter, and that frequency counter... Oh, I'm dropping you. Come back here. That frequency counter, if we turn the clarifier, you see I can change the numbers on that too. And I know it says 40 instead of 50. It's just something about the way they did this radio. When you put it on, oh, I put it on AM. On AM, it'll read the 5, and on upper sideband, it reads 10 high. So it's 10 low on lower sideband, 10 high on upper sideband, and right in the middle on AM. It actually works out well for me because that way I always know I'm on what band I'm on, whether it be AM, upper, or lower sideband, depending on what that second to the last digit is. That Washington was actually a gift from my wife about 2.5 years ago. She bought me that for my birthday. Connected to that Washington, I have an old realistic desk mic. I have tried a lot of microphones on that radio, and I always get the best reports when I'm running this mic. Everybody tells me that mic and that radio are a perfect match. That radio I have running into that Rangemaster 200. I believe that's two Motorola MRF 455s in that box. Not a real powerful one, but it'll probably peak at maybe close to the 200 peak power. Average power probably 150, 160. To the right of that, I have another Washington. Yeah, Washingtons are definitely my favorite radios. They're my all-time favorite. That one I have connected to a little Workman B100, one of those 39-inch no ground plane antennas. It doesn't work great, but it works okay. Like I said, on this end of the house, I have my big tram antenna, and on the other end of the house, I have the little Workman for that radio. Basically, what I use it for is if I want to go scanning around on that one, I'll turn this one on 38. And if any skip comes in, I'll be able to flip back on with that one. And this Washington, I don't transmit with it much, so I just have a stock mic on it. Up on top of that Washington, I have a Cobra desk mic. That's kind of came with like Cobra 2000, a Cobra 142. Great microphones. I really like those. They sound good on the air. It's basically the same mic as that realistic that I use on my Washington. On top of that one, I have a Turner Plus 3, also another great desk microphone. All right, let's talk a little bit about the sound system. I won't bore you with this. I have an Iowa car stereo. Would you see that little tiny remote there? That goes with that stereo system. And that wire that's plugged into the front of it is because it's connected to the computer. We'll get into that in a second. That stereo is connected to a pair of Bose shelf speakers up here. I also have some satellite speakers connected to the corners of my desk there, and a subwoofer on the floor. Those are all tied into the computer. And then behind me, when you turn around to the back, I have an old Pioneer stereo that I bought new in the 1990s. And it's connected to a couple of Sharp speakers. Pretty good speakers. They have a pair of woofers in each one. And the bottom woofer in each one of those cabinets, it has its own separate feed. So it's actually 4 channels that are hooked up to that stereo, even though it's only 2 cabinets. And there's another computer. They're everywhere. Speaking of computers, my backup. That computer down there on the floor, hiding down there, let's spin around again, is the exact same thing as this one. I create an image of my hard drive. I probably like once every 6 months or so, I'll create an image and copy everything from this computer over to that other one so I don't lose any of my info. And out here in my garage, I'm looking through the camera to get to that radio, so forgive me for my hand fumbling around. I have the President Adams connected to my homebrew co-phased ground planes. And that Adams is connected to the White Tornado 225 up on the top. I put a cooling fan on that thing. Being out here in the garage, I have to take that off quite often to clean out the fins on that amp. It gets pretty dirty out here. As I was saying about those realistics, why I don't want them out here, they're just too nice to be out here. So the Adams is on the co-phase ground planes, which is on the rotor, which that control box to the left there spins that rotor. The Anytone I have connected to my Mako BA1 that's on a pole out in my backyard, and it's about 20 feet in the air. It does pretty good. I use that for talking with my local 127 John, because on a vertical antenna I have a lot of trouble reaching him, but on a flat side we can talk right over everybody else and never have a problem hearing one another. So that antenna and that radio is mostly just for talking to 127. The Anytone's a nice radio, but the noise level just bugs me. It's actually kind of quiet right now. It's showing 3 dB of noise. And that's on the flat side. You know, the flat side's usually quieter. I've read lots of forums, other people complaining about the noise level, and I see why now. It's a nice radio, but the receive has a lot of noise that comes in. The Adams is nice and quiet. I really prefer using the Adams. It's got better receive. It hears things that the Anytone does not. It's not quite as loud on the air as the Anytone, but it's real close. But the main reason I use it is because I like older radios and the receive is better. And it has a better sound, too, that comes out of the speaker. The Adams is connected to that Bose speaker, and the Anytone is connected to that Realistic. I currently have my Cobra hand mic on there. That's one of the power mics that uses a 7-volt battery. Inside the garage, that's the antenna that the Adams is hooked up to. And the Anytone is hooked up to that Mako BA1 on a 20-foot pole. And my Washington in the house is hooked up to that Tram 18-foot vertical. So there it is, tour of my play areas where I have my radios all set up. My radio wall, or should I say, the wall of extras. And over at my desk. Alright guys, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Please remember those like and subscribe buttons.